Let's go Mets. Let's go Mets. Let's go Mets. Yeah.
You gotta believe and invest with your heart. Orange and blue till Mets do us part. Spring training, oh yes, it's the start. Citi Field gritty till Mets do us part. Hit home runs and knock it out the park. Big Apple till Mets do us part. You gotta believe and invest with your heart. Listen to the show till Mets do us part. John from Brooklyn, Gibby reps NJ. With the other team, I don't care what your friends say. Mets fans, we focus like a sensei. Listen to the podcast Monday, Wednesday. Made a couple bad plays, but we still won. Character, yup, we're gonna build some. Are you gonna check the pod? It's real fun. Just like Mookie, I will sign. So invest with your heart. Orange and blue till Mets do us part. Spring training, oh yes, it's the start. Citi Field gritty till Mets do us part. Hit home runs and knock it out the park. Big Apple till Mets do us part. You gotta believe and invest with your heart. Listen to the show.
Available now on all streaming platforms. If you love the New York Mets, check out Till Mets Do Us Part. Enough rapping. Let's get to yapping.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Til Mets Do Us Part, where we are live on YouTube, live on Twitter, like we are each and every single week, Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time or thereabouts. A little bit late today, just making sure we had all our ducks in a row. Of course, the Mets game goes a little bit late, but the end result is fantastic, not just for the game, but for the series, not just for the series, but for the homestand, not just for the homestand, but for the season to date. So there is plenty of stuff to talk about. John Saponaro out in Burbank, California, and that means my co-host Matt Ibanez holding things down back in New Jersey. Ibby, so much to talk about. I know that you're on break from your job this week, which is great. Hopefully you're getting some stuff done, but more importantly, hopefully you're relaxing just a little bit as well. I don't know. We'll see. All that said, how you feeling, man?
What is relaxing? I don't know what this hobby
That's
is,
fair.
but one day one day I would like to try and do it. But thank you for asking, as always, John. I am doing well. Yes, spring break this week, but getting a lot of stuff done around the house. I was able to listen to the game today as I was out back doing some painting, listening to Howie, hanging out, listening to the game, and getting some stuff done. So it's fantastic to be working hard over here, but also being able to listen to our Mets get a walk-off victory. Fantastic for 7 straight. And as you said, there was plenty to talk about. We're going to get into all of it. But I'm pumped up, man. As always, red lights on. It's Wednesday. It's a little after 5:30, so we apologize for that as always. But the vibes right now, man, they're through the roof. I am ready to talk about all, but let's get into it.
Vibes are absolutely top tier. And like I said at the top of the show, of course, this is Til Mets Do Us Part. It is free and available wherever you get your podcasts or your live streams. That includes Spotify, Apple later on today, but right here, right now, where you're watching it on Twitter and on YouTube. If you haven't already, like the video and subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you subscribe to the channel, that means that you can be an active participant in the show, in the live chat. Speaking of that live chat, we got 62 viewers right now. That number will continue to climb as it always does throughout the show. But let's shout out the folks who are here early and often. We've got D in the house. We have Darren Rivera as well. We have Carlos Ramos. Shout out to Carlos. We have Brad here. We have, let's see who else. Douglas Barnes saying, I'm going to pull this one up. You already alluded to it. Best team in baseball. Let's go. That's a good comment to start things off with. I'm missing anybody. We got Jeff Cohen here. We have Cindy in the house as well.
Some new people too. Yeah.
Some new folks. I haven't seen them. We got Rosie K. I'm scrolling down. I'm working from the top down. So I went all the way back to before. We got Corey. We got Stanley Babbage. We have Maureen. I'm waiting to get to these new people. I'm scrolling fast and furiously. Top Bunk Sports, what up? Odd Villain, who was at the game. Shout out Odd Villain.
I got one right here. I got Gregory Smith. I'll pull him up right here.
Damn. Weekly listener, but first time joining the live. Couldn't miss after a series homestand like that. What is going on? We got Stephen Cano as well saying, fuck Phillies. I'll take that.
We got this one right here too.
Oh, man, Black Banner 416. I never get to watch live. Went out of my way because the only thing I hate more than cantaloupe and taxes are the Phillies. I love it. I got to find out what you think, why you hate Cantaloupe so much. Clink is here. Diddy is here. Man, so many folks. Welcome to the new folks. We got Jay Customs in the house. Shout out J Mac Customs, who has been featured prominently throughout the homestand, as he should be, bringing the fantastic.
Him and Jingle Man. I saw him singing along to My Girl. It was fantastic.
Jingle Man. And also there was the guy last night who looked like Grandpa Joe from Willy Wonka, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Yo, I saw
Chris Ferraro out there with the 7-line too. The one night I saw him out there in center. It's awesome.
I did see Chris Ferraro. I want to talk exclusively about Grandpa Joe because I feel like do you know the guy I'm talking about?
Yes, I do know who you're talking about. Yes.
Okay, so because I think that's gonna be the guy. That's gonna be the first weird Mets shit we do this year to the positive, right? Last year we had the rally pimp and we had Grimace and we had all these things happening. Oh my God, the confluence of all these situations. But I think Grandpa Joe, who managed to crawl out of bed with the 8 other people that he sleeps with to get out to this Mets game and wear his blue and orange suit jacket. Listen, man, that guy is fantastic. That guy is goals, as they say.
Oh man, wait. But no. Yeah.
Hold on.
Here we got
Black Banner saying cantaloupe tastes how I imagine Brendan Marsh smells. So there you go. That's why they hate cantaloupe.
Oh
okay,
my
respect,
God.
Honestly.
Too
Sorry,
funny,
you were going to say something.
No, just like I was saying before, we were alluding to like the vibes overall. Like, I mean, I guess it's a good starting point. Like, just in general, the overall feeling at the ballpark, and yeah, I've been there once so far, but just seeing it on TV too. And we're talking about, April 23rd, and like every game, like they're bringing it every single game. It's like people were a little bit put off when Cohen initially said what he said about, making this a home and, coming out to the ballpark and wanting to better the overall numbers when it came to attendance. And, it's easy to question it mainly because of, it costs a lot of money to get out there. For some people, it's not, it's not the cheapest of things to do. But the fact that everyone took that seriously, you want to call it the Soto effect. You want to talk about the fact that this team is, has expectations and everybody wants them to do better. They want to encapsulate and keep those same vibes and feelings that they had last year. And they want to carry over and make that a normal happening. They are bringing it. 10th man, whatever you want to call it. Like, the energy is you can feel it through your television, and it is awesome. The fact that My Girl is getting louder and louder every single time, every single at bat, you can feel that whether it's the starting pitcher of the opposing team or someone coming out of the pen, they're feeling that pressure, and guys are really fueled off of it. And they are performing, especially Lindor, who's been on fire, which, as you see, it's a talking point for us this week with everything that he's done. But just in general, it's hard not to feel fantastic right now as a Mets fan.
Yeah, look, Darren's saying it. Even freaking Danny Young contributed. And shout out, look, we don't know exactly what's going on right now with Edwin Diaz. Of course, some weird stuff happens when he comes back out for the 10th inning. Shout out Max Kranick, who gets pressed into duty after throwing 36 pitches 2 days ago. They mentioned it on the broadcast, and this is true. Obviously, as is the case with an injury, the incoming pitcher has, quote, as long as they want or as long as they need to warm up. But I think a lot of times in the flow of the game, these relief pitchers, they rush it a little bit. Like, they know fans are waiting. They know their teammates are waiting. They know the game is at a standstill until they're ready. And I think it's just human nature to kind of be like, hey, I'm good. Not to their own detriment, but just kind of quickening that pace a little bit. And for somebody like Kranick, who's not been a reliever for a long time, I know he had his sort of first bad outing of the season a couple days ago. He comes back on short rest after pitching a ton, after no notice, and pitches his ass off, keeps the game right where it is, and allows the Mets to have the heroics after the fact in the bottom of the inning. So, there are contributions from every single person. You get Luis Torrens. He comes into the game and, gets another 0-2 hit, just like he did the other day. And you're getting contributions from Brett Beatty. Brett Beatty, going yard for the first time in almost a year, doing it off of Zach Wheeler, who, Zach Wheeler has been one of the best pitchers in baseball basically since he left the Mets, which is unfortunate. But he has been bitten a lot by the home run ball this season. Basically, all the runs he gives up have come off home runs, and Beatty absolutely mashed the ball. So when you're winning, when the vibes are high, you're getting contributions everywhere. And the Mets are. I know the numbers aren't as pretty for some of the people that we like, that we would like them to be, right? There's going to be the criticisms of, Brandon Nimmo still hitting in the cleanup spot. Mark Vientos looking better, but still not having the kind of at-bats we expect. Brett Beatty having his issues. As the Soto thing's a non-story, but fine. The Soto stuff, like there's going to be things where you can nitpick a little bit here and there, but Starling Marte gets the big hit. This is a guy that you and I were talking about in the offseason. Hey, the Mets would do well, even if you had to pay, God, 3/4 of his salary. This is a guy that the Mets would do well to kind of move on from just to clear the roster spot. And that's probably still true. You know what I mean? Just like in the big picture, the Mets would like to have maybe a more versatile roster spot there. But Starling Marte, not only with this game winner, has contributed in a small sample size. Again, the numbers, not necessarily what you would love. So they're getting contributions from everyone. The pitching in the bullpen and in the starting rotation has been terrific. The lineup, not exactly where we want it, but they are doing enough. And I don't think they're doing, just enough like they were maybe a week or two ago. They're getting better at bats as the weather has gotten a bit better. So while the overall numbers don't look great right now, I think the lineup is going in the direction we want. And we're about to get 2 reinforcements in the form of Jeff McNeil and Francisco Alvarez. So right now, the Mets they're great. They're playing great baseball.
It's hilarious. I don't see him in the chat right now. Zero Cool, who's been here the last handful of weeks, is in the chat this week, and I'm hopefully shows up at some point because we've been having a little bit of a back and forth in the comments of some of our videos when he keeps on ragging about the Mets and they're hitting and they're the hitless wonders and blah blah blah. And I keep on going back at him after every game saying it's another win, 0, another win, 5 hits, another win, 7 runs, another hit, like whatever it is. Hopefully he shows up today so I could. The offense in general, like you look at it.
I don't know, Ibby. You're freezing up, man. Ibby's about to make a great point, and then
Here I am. Am I back?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I think it was just a little stutter step. Go ahead. Just start from the top.
No, just the only thing I was going to bring up is the fact that the offense, the overall numbers, like you just alluded to, are not the sexiest right now. But they are they are trending in the right direction. And of course, you got to talk about Lindor, who's been the driving force. And I said this, a handful of weeks ago now, where I was like, look, you can have the nicest and the best engine in the world, but if you don't start it, if you don't turn the key, it doesn't matter. It's just sitting there doing nothing. And I had said that, Francisco Lindor is the key. You want to call him the ignition, like whatever. Like he is the one that drives everything. So when I see him over this homestand, 7 games played, 467 average, 1367 OPS, 14 hits, 4 home runs, 8 RBIs, 8 runs. Like this is the guy that we saw come in second place last year as an MVP, but just, he has the highest F WAR in baseball over the last 365 days. Like he is the guy, and it is awesome to see. And yes, I want some better numbers overall from the lineup moving forward, but like you said, it's trending in the right direction. They're doing damage when it matters. And then and these big spots and these moments that are being created that are helpfully, that are being driven also by these raucous crowds as well. So all in all, everything's coming up Mets right now. And, it also helps that the pitching has been phenomenal to make up for some of the shortcomings of the offense here and there. But the hitting is starting to make a turn. And like you said also before, this is all happening. And Brandon Nimmo hasn't found his stride. And Mark Vientos is starting to come out of it a little bit. And Juan Soto is hitting the ball hard, but he's hitting it at people, but it's starting to creep up here and there. Like oh my God, that home run, that would almost home run. Like I erupted, like the crack of the bat down the line. Like I wanted it so badly. The stadium wanted it so badly, but it's coming. It's going to get there. But all in all, the fact that like he's the biggest one, the fact that Juan Soto isn't, full blown, like all cylinders yet, it still shows you, like I mentioned a couple weeks ago, that no matter what he's doing, it's helping Lindor and Alonso, who are help driving the offense. And eventually Soto's going to get going. And that's why I still believe that this team has yet another level of success within this season, especially when he starts to get going.
I totally agree. A couple funny comments, a lot of really great comments coming in. I'm going to get to those in a second after I attack these two funny ones and then go ahead and make my point really quick on Juan Soto. Shay saying Zero Cool is here. He attacked Ibby's Wi-Fi. That's what happened behind the scenes. And then Brad just asking, when do we get the Andy Martino column on Ibby's Wi-Fi? So I don't know. You know, we're going to get a write-up on what exactly is going on with Ibby's Wi-Fi. No, I'm happy that you mentioned Soto and hitting the ball hard, because I did tweet out something similar the other day. I think it was last night. Yes, because he had an offer, but hit two balls extremely hard, or had an offer.
Oh, that one to third base. Oh my God.
Yeah. Look, it's, and I just want to make the same point here that I made on Twitter. If you don't follow me on Twitter, it's at John Saponaro. But, for the benefit of the live show and the talking point itself is, Ibby, Soto has not been quote unquote Soto to this point. He has not been vintage Soto. And I put out a whole Til Mets Morning Minute, and that's slightly on hold just because I've got a lot of stuff going on here in my day-to-day life and I can't get to them right now, but those will be coming back. I put out a video about that last week, about why this is a non-story, because everything is going to be fine. But even if you were worried or are worried about Soto, just how this narrative, Ibby, could be different if that non-3-run homer was, I don't know, 2 inches to the left and hit that foul pole. And also if some of those balls, not even all of them, give me back half of the balls from opening day till now that Juan Soto has obliterated. I don't care if they're on the ground. I know people are going to say he's hitting too many balls on the ground, but Ibby, he has ripped balls 100 miles an hour, sometimes 2 or 3 in a game, right into gloves. You give me half of those back, and there's not a person, misguided or not, complaining about the numbers that Juan Soto has put up. That's how much in hard luck he is hitting. Again, acknowledging that he's not looked himself. He's a little out of sync, but if you just give me back half of the hard hit balls and some of those drop, there's not a person complaining about the numbers he's putting up. However misguided and foolish that might be to do in the first place.
Yeah, again, you look at the numbers, you're like, these numbers aren't even that bad. Like, it's just, like you said, it's hitting into a lot of bad luck. I don't have his, batting average on balls in play in front of me, but I would venture to guess that they're not the greatest right now. And that number is going to go to where it needs to go. And if you look at him historically, also, like, the first month of the season aren't his best months, regardless of where he's been, for the most part. But all in all, like I said last week, I am not worried about Juan Soto. I love what he brings to this lineup. I love the fact that he's still going out there and playing solid defense with the big throw today, getting the guy out at the plate. That was much needed. His first big defensive moment. So no matter
couple
what,
other ones too, where the throws were just, in the 10th inning, he holds Castellanos. I know it's a shallow. Oh, that was Taylor, I believe. That was Taylor. My bad.
That was the Taylor one. Yeah.
There was a couple of other throws where his throws were timely. They didn't get outs, but they didn't need to. He kept guys, from taking extra bases and things like that.
Yeah. So no matter what, like I said, he is the driving force, because I stand by this. Without him, I don't think that Lindor's having the early season success that he's having right now. I don't think that Pete is getting the pitches that he's getting and driving without, a Soto in the lineup. It allows him to be what he's always meant to be. Like I've always said for the last, year now at this point, was that a Soto presence was going to do wonders for someone like Pete Alonso. So all in all, like, I want Juan Soto to find that groove. We all want Juan Soto to find that groove. And I think it's inching closer and closer. Saw some really good swings. Like I said, like, Alec Bohm is far from like a defensive wizard at third base. And the fact that, Soto rips one down the line and he backhands it, and I'm like, that's a double. Like, and that is always a double. And this guy decides to have a happy birthday type play, and he turns 2 on him or whatever. So it's unfortunate. It sucks. But like I said, eventually those hits are going to start falling.
Bohm reminds me a little bit of Vientos in the sense that there's Sometimes there's the spectacular play, but you're not going to say that that person's like a Gold Glover. You know what I mean? Like they've got the ability, but then you might see them make like a bonehead play. And that's a non-scientific comparison, by the way. I don't know how their defensive numbers actually shake out and compare. Just from watching them side by side, Bohm's been in this division now for several years, and I've probably seen damn near every game that Vientos has played at the major league level. And when you look at them, it's just like, there's tools there, but I think there's a confidence issue there. I think there's sometimes, you make the error on the play on the ball hit right at you because you're thinking too much. But if you just allow your body to do what your body does, you make that slick backhand. So I think there's a little bit of similarities in the defensive game of Alec Bohm and Mark Vientos. Let's get into those comments really quick before we get too deeper into the show. J-Mac Customs, who's been to the games a lot, like we alluded to, feels like a playoff atmosphere every game. I think that's true. Carlos Ramos saying these guys continue to have fun in the dugout and the clubhouse, but they also look confident. They know that they belong and are doing what should be expected. We've got Gregory Smith. The video of Winker running up to Pete on the ground and shaking him after the winning run was the perfect representation of the vibes this clubhouse has right now. Shout out to Jesse Winker, because he was a guy who said, there's a lot of it was made over the broadcast over the last couple weeks when the season started. He's a guy who wanted to come back here, Ibby, really wanted to be here, told his agent as much, like, if there's a chance, if there's an avenue, if there's a road, this is where I want to play. And you hear more of it from the support that Soto's been getting despite the slow start for him, what that meant to him being cheered and getting the standing ovation at home. They talked to Griffin Canning after the game last night about what it means to pitch for this team right now. And he talked about how fun it is coming from the doldrums that is being the second team, and truly the second team here in Southern California, in Anaheim. And then they talked to Tylor Megill, who has been here for a long time now. And Tylor Megill talking about how this is the best time in his life or his pitching career to be a part of this Mets team. And all that stuff, definitely matters. And to that end, Brad says Mets fans have nothing to complain about right now.
They'll find a way.
They will. They 100% will.
way.
I wholeheartedly agree with that sentiment, though. Carlos Ramos saying, shout out to Pete Alonso and his mastery of the RBI stat. I mean, the guy's been on an absolute tear. Mendy is making all the right moves. D, I totally agree. And then saying, is Pete projected for 175 RBI? Ibby, I know that Armand just got here because he said just got back from the game. Can't believe I saw a UFO sighting, a.k.a. the Beatty 2-run home run off Zach Wheeler. We'll leave that aside for a moment, but we know Armand is here. Armand's the kind of guy who would check on this for us, projected for 175 RBI. I will say this, Ibby.
Yeah.
He has more RBI. I think it took him till like the middle of May to get to as many RBI that he has right now. That's incredible. He is on a torrid pace for RBI. That is Pete Alonso.
And you'll love to see it. And the one thing I was going to say is, the Jesse Winker factor and the vibes that he brings, but overall, to bring it back to that comment, talk about how, this clubhouse feels right now and looks. This team has built itself on a motto as a franchise of you got to believe forever. And if I'm being honest, I think a lot of Mets fans would agree also, for the longest time, that a lot of these teams that we've watched over the years, they didn't even believe in themselves. And I think that this team truly believes that they are a contender, even though there are people out there that still say they're facing nobody, they haven't done anything, the pitching's not going to hold up. And then, the Cardinals come in, who have been hitting the hell out of the ball, and they shut them down and they sweep them 4 games. And then, here come the Phils, here comes your test. Like, you're not ready for this. And then they go out there and they handle the Phils. They sweep the Phils at home. They're dominating at home. They're doing what they're supposed to do at home. And, the fans are playing big too. So, it's just, it's awesome to see that this team truly looks at itself in the mirror and says, I don't care who you are. I'm going to do the job and I'm going to beat you. I don't care if you are a lowly team like the Marlins or if you are a big bad like the Phils or whomever decides to walk in, or wherever place they're walking into. They feel as though that they can compete with anybody. And it's hard to disagree with that right now because they're playing fantastic baseball.
Yeah. It's funny. Obviously, like, it's one of those things as a Mets fan, it's ingrained in your head, like, the Amazons and you got to believe. But when you said it just now, it kind of struck a chord with me in a different way. And I don't know that I'm going to be able to articulate this properly, but I hope that you and the viewers and the listeners understand where I'm going with this. I know you've talked in the past about the quote where hope is not a strategy.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like when you think about the beginnings, the origin of You Gotta Believe, it was almost, I mean, it was based on this hope in a place where in a time where there shouldn't really have been the hope, right? Like the Tug McGraw, like, hey, you know what? You got to believe first in order to get there. You got to believe in what we're doing. It's a rally cry for the fan base, but it was as much a rally cry for the other guys that were on the team alongside him of like, you got to buy in. You got to believe in what we're doing. I think that's really at the heart of what it was. So there's a hopefulness. I think now when we think about the Mets in the Steve Cohen era, in the modern era, and I'm going to use the entire brain trust here and kind of combine Steve Cohen with David Stearns with Carlos Mendoza, because I truly think that this organization is in better hands than maybe it has ever been from the top down onto the field manager that is Carlos Mendoza. I think You Gotta Believe almost takes on a different feeling now, Ibby, where it's like, you have to believe. You know what I mean? Like, this is not, not to say that it's not hopeful, because it still is, but I just think there's something where it's like, the Mets are on their way. I'm not taking this just because of the hot start that they're on, but I truly believe in the leadership so much that the Mets are on their way to becoming what we all hope they could be, which is a upper echelon, undeniable franchise. I truly believe that. So I think it's almost like, it's like, you gotta believe. It's almost like you translate it now. It's, you have to believe. We're going to make you believe. Does that make sense?
I think it makes 100% sense wholeheartedly. I understand what you're trying to get across. And, we've always said that, for people to get on board with something like what you just said, it all came down to putting everything together and putting a product out there on the field that just allows someone to say it's no longer just, hopes and wishes. It's like, no, this is happening. I said last week when we were talking about identity of this team, I said, I think that their identity that they're trying to establish is they just want to be a respected, well-rounded team that has a chance to win every single night that they go out there. And they're going to be doing a lot more winning than losing. And right now they're on pace for 115 wins. Now, look, I'm not saying it's going to hold up, but
Sure.
Either way, it's a great place to be in right now, because everything is clicking, and it shows you when everything, I should say from a winning standpoint, everything is clicking. Not everything for this team has yet clicked all at once yet, which, like I said, still makes me believe that there is yet another level for this team to reach, which is why I feel as though that they can compete with anybody. And look, what would happen, the moment this team, steps on the field with the Dodgers or the Padres, I know, who I think are the two top teams next to the Mets at the moment. We'll see. I mean, those games are played on the field, but I think that any Mets fan should feel confident in what they are doing to this point. So when they do step on the field with teams of that caliber that the media or others tell you are these are the big bads, these are the ones you got to go out there and beat. Well, I think you as a fan should feel confident that once they step foot on that diamond, it's go time and they got a shot at winning.
Yeah, I completely agree across the board. Let's jump back into the comments. We have a super chat from Hebrew Hammer. We're going to get to that in a second. Thank you for the super chat, Hebrew, as always. Just want to bring up this one really quick from Stephen Cano. It says, this is why I don't question the GM or that pitching lab. And it's true. I mean, that's something we've always preached on this show, is believe in Stearns, trust in Stearns. Again, Stephen, one of those folks who's a new commenter to the live show, like we said at the top of the show, but somebody who's been listening for a while. There is a difference between saying, hey, I kind of disagree with this, I would do things differently, versus the people who are out there questioning what the guy is doing unnecessarily when this guy has a tremendous track record of success. So, it's one thing to have an opinion, but I think it's another thing, Ibby, entirely to go ahead and question something. I use that as the lead in to this comment from Hebrew Hammer, because again, we're all entitled to have that opinion. And I think it's different. And what Hebrew says is, first, when I see Megill pitch, he reminds me so much of Mike Pelfrey. Look at the deliveries. So just from a standpoint of the pitching mechanics. Secondly, and here's why I brought up that first comment from Steve saying, please put Vientos in the 2-hole. So, this is something we know that Hebrew has been banging the drum on.
Yeah.
And pushing for. And it's something that you and I talked about before the season started that we thought was a possibility. So while things are going really, really well, and while things are really, really working, I don't think this second part of the comment of putting Vientos in the 2-hole is necessarily questioning the GM or the manager or the brain trust, as it were. I think it's more of what Hebrew would do. And I think even in the times like we are now, where things are, business is a booming, I think it's okay to have opinions on how you would do things differently. You know what I'm saying?
No, I get it wholeheartedly. And I still bring it back to what I was saying last week, where I don't think it's going to happen just yet. But again, if it's something that you think could, spark a Vientos and moving Soto down, like, I have no problem with the conversation, but I really want to see Vientos more and more coming out of that 4 spot right now. I would like to see that a little bit more consistently. I feel like he's been getting some good swings on the ball. That shot to right field was yesterday. I think he just missed it. He took it to the track, and I was like, he's getting there. Like, he's going the opposite field. Like, I feel like Vientos is almost there. And like I said, like, I think adding him to this lineup, who, look, he's had a couple of moments. I know he hit the changeup the other day. I know a great article was put up by, I think, was it Rosenthal? I can't remember. I can't remember who put it out this morning, talking about probably Will Salmon, I should say, put out an article about, Vientos putting in a lot of work when it came to the off-speed pitch. And obviously we see how that pans out in yesterday's game when he rips that changeup down the line. So hopefully he gets a little bit going. But I think they're going to try him more and more out of the 4 spot as opposed to the 2. And like I said, keep Nimmo behind him, and I think he's going to get fed some better pitches as well. So all in all, that's kind of where I am on the whole thing.
I just bring up the comment one more time just to shout out Hebrew Hammer, and thank you again for the super chat.
Thank you so much, Hebrew.
On the super chat. Super, super, super appreciated. Pun not intended on the super, but whatever. We'll go with it. And Ibby, I think to your point there, and to Hebrew's comment, Carlos Ramos, I'm a piggyback off of Hebrew's comment. Please take Nimmo out of the 4 spot and cement him at the 6 spot. I agree with you. I agree with Carlos. I guess I sort of, in a way, disagree with Hebrew in that I think the first shakeup we are going to see, the first major lineup shakeup we're going to see, is Nimmo taken out of the 4 spot. I think the Mets are going to go more and more for Vientos in the 4 spot. I think that's the one that makes sense. And I hate to be a broken record. I'm just going to echo what I said last week for anybody who may not have listened or watched or been here live. Ibby, there is no question that the 3 best hitters on the Mets are Lindor, Soto, and Alonso. And to this point, the Mets argument is simply going to be, we do not want anyone else getting more at-bats than those 3 people. And if that is the argument, they are 100% right, because no one else deserves to get those at-bats. Now, I understand from lineup construction, Hebrew's point is you put Vientos in front of Soto, Vientos will get more fastballs. You can still have Soto be protected by Pete. It's going to make everything better. It's going to elongate the lineup. I don't think that's a bad thought process at all. But I think the one that is the trump card here is that the Mets themselves are thinking 3 best players, 3 most at-bats, full stop. And also, to this point, it's working. So I think the first shakeup you're going to see is Vientos go into that cleanup spot. It's going to make a lot of people annoyed, Ibby, including me. I think, can't believe I'm going to say this. You know what I'm going to say. I think you might see, this is so dumb. It's the wrong thing to do. But I think you might see Jeff McNeil get some at-bats in the cleanup spot. Now, it's not how I would do it. I'm not co-signing it. I just think if Vientos continues his little kind of up-down, boom-bust, Nimmo doesn't get hot, I think you're going to see a lineup that might feature McNeil there, at least with the thinking being McNeil can give you a quality at-bat there. Now, do I think that that's the best spot for him? I don't. I think that's insane. But again, I may not be able to argue with the thought process, especially the way he's been hitting in AAA and the way that some of these other guys have not been hitting. So I think it's going to make a lot of people annoyed, including me, but I think you might see that. I would love to get to a situation where you could settle in with Vientos in the 4. Maybe you can put Nimmo or McNeil behind him. And then, you kind of construct the lineup that way where they're in the 5. But yeah, man, I do think now is the time. It's enough of a sample size. I would like to pull the trigger on getting Nimmo out of the 4 spot. That is the bottom line that I've got here.
I think I'm at the point now where it's like I've seen enough with the progressions of the at bats getting better with Vientos that I'm ready to put him at the 4 spot, drop Nimmo a bit, let him get going, whether it's 5th or 6th or however they want to put him in the lineup, to try and spark him a little bit. But yeah, I'm to the point now where we talked about, was it 2 weeks ago now, we were like, well, who are you going to put in the 4 spot? Like right now it's only Nimmo. And now we're getting to the point where it's like, okay, now we can start having conversations where it's like, okay, I'm seeing more from Vientos. I want to see him get more at bats. I want to see him in these spots. So putting him at the cleanup spot, like I can buy into that now because he's shown me, progressions over these last 2 weeks or so. So I'm ready to shake things up in that sense. So I can see him going to 4 and dropping Nimmo down. It makes sense. Hopefully the drop down can get Nimmo right because, it just having him proper lengthens this lineup even more. Do I want to your other point, do I want to see Jeff McNeil batting 4th? I do not. I hope that doesn't happen. I hope Vientos hits the ground running and holds on to that 4 spot moving forward. But I understand your point, and it would not shock me if that happened, if he was the 4 hitter for some games where it's like this, keep the quarter in the merry-go-round type just to get another guy on base, create some traffic if he can slap the ball and get another base runner on or whatever, and hopefully someone behind him can do something. I can see it from that standpoint. I don't like it, but I could see the conversation being had and the reasoning behind it. But let's just hope that Vientos can, like I said, get the run, keep doing well to hold on to that 4 spot.
Carson, he's not always there when you call, but he's always on time. Oh, John, McNeil is going to be batting 4th on Friday. Don't worry. Have you seen his rehab stats? A completely different animal. Of course, if you know
Torpedo
Carson,
McNeil.
That is said with tongue firmly in cheek. But I think he's right, Ibby. I think McNeil is going to hit 4th on Friday.
Oh my God.
I want to be super, super clear with everybody who.
Meanwhile, we just saw the comment that said Mets fans have nothing to complain about, and here we are about to complain.
No, I'm not. Listen, I'm not even gonna. I'm gonna be fair. I'm not gonna complain about it, despite the fact that, going back to what I said before, I would do it differently. My opinion is that's crazy. Like Carson, like Carlos says, please don't bat McGough 4th. Please don't. I'm not sure my head would stay out of the wall if that happens. I agree. It is not what I would do. But Ibby, I'm not going to complain if that's what they do, because it's not to say that I understand it, because again, my opinion is I wouldn't go in that direction. I could see the logic from the Mets saying Vientos has been up and down. Nimmo has not been good in this spot. Winker and Marte, we swap in and out, so we want a little bit more consistency there. I can just see the math of how they get to McNeil being in that spot. I don't agree, but I could see it, and I'm not going to complain because there isn't a lot to complain about right now when you look at the New York Mets. And the other reason why I won't complain is, Ibby, when you look at this from Heber, right, says, I'd love to see Alvarez hitting 4th, just needs to come back and start hitting. Then yes, he followed that up by saying, I think he'd be better suited in the 5-hole. I do agree as well. I think Alvarez is more of a 5-hole hitter, from what he's shown in his career when the power is there and everything. But the one thing I will say is, to everybody who has been complaining, and rightfully so, about Nimmo hitting in the 4 spot, is that unlike before, we are now seeing that the Mets will have some options. I think it was too early to make the move earlier than this, but I also think with Vientos looking like he might be turning a corner, with Alvarez coming back, even though I don't think it's ideal with McNeil coming back, they do have some other lineup machinations they could play around with, because it's clear, like, they're not going to hit Beatty fourth. They're not going to hit Acuna fourth, nor should they. They're not going to hit Terens fourth. They're not going to hit Taylor fourth. So it's really Nimmo or Vientos or sometimes Jesse Winker. I don't even think they really want to put Starling Marte fourth. They only did it like once.
No.
So when you're looking at it, it's really been just, it's going to be Nimmo or it's going to be Vientos. And that's kind of just the way it has to be right now with these other guys coming back, whether you or I or whomever else likes it or not, there will be options. So I just think we're going to see something different. And I think it's going to start Friday.
Yeah, it's hard for me to disagree with anything you just said. I think, I guess it would be odd. And sorry if I'm cutting out a little bit, but it would be so odd to just see McNeil come back and just be inserted as the cleanup hitter. But it also, if it does happen, it just goes to show you that the lack of production from that spot or consistency from that spot has allowed something like this to happen, which is unfortunate, and hopefully things can get righted. But I really want to give, like, I hope that we can get some run out of Vientos in that spot to see if he can find himself a little. Like I said, I think it's close, and I would like to see him thriving in that spot and allow someone like a McNeil to be a little bit more towards the bottom half of the lineup to provide something, if you will, because it's been so lacking that if he can just be the guy who, does what he does, slaps the ball around or whatever, to just, give the bottom half of the lineup a better shot of turning the lineup over to give them more opportunities for RBI situations. Like, that's what I'm more interested in. Like, that's what I want you to do, Jeff, because that's what I think that that's your best option as a player, unless this torpedo bat, changes his entire career. I'm not going to hold my breath, but I like him more towards the bottom half of the lineup. But like you said, if they want to put him at 4, it just speaks volumes about how they want more out of the spot and they're willing to try anything at this point.
Yeah. And I think that's what it comes down to. So, again, Mets fans, viewers, listeners, this is not me and Ibby advocating for it. We don't think that it's the right move if it were up to us, but it's just understanding that they've gotten so little out of the position. It's been mostly Nimmo, but there has been some other folks. And I just think that they're willing to, I don't know, shake the snow globe, for lack of a better way of putting it, Ibby. They want to just move things around a little bit. And now with Alvarez and McNeil coming back, they are going to have more opportunities to do that. I want to bring up a couple comments. Odd Villain says, makes perfect sense when talking about my translation, my new translation of You Gotta Believe. He says, You feel it at the ballpark. This team is becoming an inevitable perennial winner. The culture shift, the juju in the air, and all of that. And Shea furthering it by saying, and honestly, in the past, you always felt like maybe we could have a few good years. Maybe. And then maybe we strike before we go back into obscurity. Maybe. Now it's like, you got to believe that we could be a dynasty. And not to get ahead of ourselves with the word dynasty, but you just got to believe that we're in the mix every year. I think the perennial
even
word
if you don't want
to
use, even if you don't want to use the word dynasty, it's like you're being what we've always wanted, like that sustainability. Like, you're always going to be a player. Even if you think that using the word dynasty is too aggressive at the moment because of, people have tried probably equating it to the actual win streak right now, but it's not. I understand what Shay's saying, as do you, John, but maybe if you just want to put it as, this team is ready to be that consistent player on a year in and year out basis. Every night they go out there, they can win a ball game. It's not as though we're trotting something out there where it's like we're going to get run over because we're this joke of a franchise and we're bordering on obscurity. Like, that's not the case anymore. Like, this team has arrived. And like I said, this belief in themselves goes so far. And I think that they truly believe every single day that they hit the diamond, we're going to win a ball game. And I think that it's showing out in their overall play.
Yeah. Carson saying, Lindor, Soto, Nimmo, Alonso has been my preference since before the season started, and I'm sticking with it. It allows everyone to be themselves. This aggressive crap from Nimmo isn't his approach. That is something Carson has said. We join them a lot on Mets Weekly. This is a conversation that we have had.
I do have a
wouldn't-
question. I would
Yeah, go
like to throw out there.
Sure.
To try to cut you off, John, but just Carson, if you can, when it comes to dropping Pete to 4 as opposed to 3, do we like? Are we wrong? Or and like our opinion here has always been like we want Pete to get more at bats. You're going to see more at bats out of the 3 spot than the 4. Does that affect? Or it's clear that doesn't. When it comes to your math, it doesn't bother you at all that we're going to see less at bats from Pete in that lineup that you would like to see with him being 4th as opposed to 3. I'm just asking a simple question to you out there.
This is not in direct response to. Oh yeah, okay. He said this first. I'm going to bring it up and then the exact answer. First, he said, this has been a thing since his rookie year. The hitter behind Alonso was always the most aggressive because of the lack of lineup depth. And then saying, exactly. And Vientos is aggressive enough to protect Alonso. So that's the thought process of just having an aggressive hitter behind him rather than, I guess it doesn't really answer the question of him getting less at bats, but it is the thought process of him being protected by somebody who is not going outside of their comfort zone to do so, I suppose.
I get it. I understand what he's saying. I understand the thought process. I'm just, I'm curious. I'm sure he'll answer. Like, I'm just curious on the less at bats approach because of how well he's doing to this one. Now, look, is he going to bat 340 all season? Probably not. But like at the moment, at least, like you want to see this guy up there as much as possible because he's hitting the shit out of the ball right now.
Absolutely. Jump back into the comments here as my cat makes a guest appearance behind me on the couch, as he is wont to do sometimes when I decide to leave the door open. Hebrew Hammer saying, I like Tyrone Taylor, but it's time to give Drew Gilbert a chance. He's 24 years old, and we need to start looking and evaluating them for the future. That's true. It's just coming off of the injury, just getting out of his own rehab assignment in Port St. Lucie. I said last week, I'd be shocked if we don't see Drew Gilbert on this team at some point this year because he is 24 years old. There is a sense of urgency, sort of like there is around Brett Beatty, although obviously their stories are different. But there's a sense of urgency to get this guy to the majors, and the Mets are going to have some semblance of a need in the outfield at some point, and maybe he's not a true center fielder, but I think we'll see Gilbert. It's not to me that there's enough at this point. Like it has not reached that point. Drew Gilbert's he's not ready to be called up. That's really what it comes to.
I haven't seen his I haven't looked at a week's worth of stat lines. I know he had a decent game the other night. I think he or something like that, a 3 for 5, something along those lines. I know he had a solid game, but I still don't think he's knocking on the door yet where it's like, hey, something's happening here. You got to call this guy up. It hasn't reached that point yet. It might at some point. And to Hebrew's point, like at 24 years old, I hope that, you start delivering at the age you are, at the level that AAA is. Like, I hope you start dominating like you should if you want to be called up because you are, a top 100-ish prospect. Like, it's now or never for you in that spot. So hopefully he can do something like that where he can be knocking. But to this point, it's not there yet. For now, you stick with Tyrone, and then obviously we'll see what happens with the likes of Luis Angel Acuna potentially being a center fielder, getting time out there if he can be staying up, but we'll see how they go about handling defense at that point. But for now, I think Gilbert's a little bit in wait and see, but he should be doing everything he can to dominate AAA.
Here's Carson's full answer to your question, which thank you, Carson, for sticking around and giving us the answer. It's about creating damage. Carson. He says it's about creating damage. If you put Nimmo behind Alonso, he's pitched around as an ideal threat. I'm not worried about Alonso's plate appearance total if Lindor steals from the top and takes away the double play. So it's more about just Nimmo going out of his comfort zone, really, which goes harken back to or Nimmo going against what Nimmo does best, I suppose, which is a harkening back to what he said before. Yes, Hebrew does say Gilbert is hitting 359 this season, off to a good start. But again, he just got to AAA. He was on rehab assignment till last week. So it's a very small sample size as far as that is concerned. Again, Hebrew, I think you're ultimately right that we're going to see this guy. It's just now is not the time because the Mets do have an interesting roster crunch, Ibby, which I'd like to address here first before we put to bed the lineup discourse. Just wanted to bring this up from Carlos Ramos because I think this is fair. He says the 6 through 9 of the Mets lineup should be Nimmo and Alvarez at Torrens, whoever's catching, McNeil and Acuna. I don't think that that's necessarily a bad lineup to go with. I would have Nimmo still be a bit higher. I think I would probably have Nimmo 5th or whatever the case may be, but I'm not going to argue with this. The same way that I'm not going to necessarily argue, I disagree with Carson putting Nimmo 3rd, but I'm not going to argue with it. I think what we've seen so far from the Mets lineup, there's going to be a shakeup. It's coming soon. The only reason why I think I would be a little bit more on board with Carlos's than Carson's is simply because I'm agreeing with the Mets math right now of do not break up Lindor, Soto, and Alonso. Apart from that, I'm willing to I said I was willing to sit here and not complain about Jeff McNeil batting 4th, which is something I've complained about in the past. So I'm willing to take many other scenarios. I don't want to break up the top 3, at least not right now. So I brought up that Drew Gilbert comment because the Mets are getting back Francisco Alvarez and Jeff McNeil on Friday, barring any setbacks. I believe they're playing in a game like right now, if I'm not mistaken, or a game that's about to start. Today was their last rehab game. I don't know when that game starts. I apologize for not knowing. Point is, barring some kind of setback, they're both expected to be back with the Mets on Friday for the start of the series in Washington. So we know 2 players are going down, Ibby. One of them is definitely going to be Hayden Senger, which Odd Villain says, thank you for your service, Hayden Senger.
Yeah, did a great job.
Listen, Hayden Sanger is going to be the Mets' 3rd catcher, I think, for a little while. He's going to ride the bus back and forth from the minors as long as his options will dictate. He did more
and he got that
enough.
major league check. Good for him.
Yeah, absolutely.
He got that major league check. Good for him.
He did more than enough to justify it. He was better with the bat than anybody would have thought that he could have been, even with the low expectations. And he played great defense. Not good, great defense, which is the reputation that he had. However, that means the Mets are going to have to send down one other player. We have AJ Roth, who says Acuna must, in all caps, stay in the MLB. Armand says put Acuna in center now with McNeil coming back. There's been a discourse of no, keep Acuna at 2nd, put McNeil in left field or something like that. But Ibby, forget about the lineup. Forget about where they're going to play. I agree with AJ. Acuna at this point is a must stay on the roster.
He has to stay.
Has to.
No questions.
He's hitting like, I don't know at the end of the game what the number was. He's got his average up to 275. After a couple of early, jitters in the field, he's playing elite defense at second base.
Great double play last night. Fantastic.
Great double play. You do have the option, although again, the height would indicate that he is not a long-term lock in center field, but you can play him in center field. I think you can get him some reps at 3rd if you so choose, and then you can make Vientos DH, whatever the case is. This guy is a spark plug. He is the fastest player on the team. He's one of the fastest players in baseball. You just need what he brings. The Mets don't have anybody else like Luis Angel Acuna, and he has done, to his credit, he's risen to the occasion. He's having better at bats. His batting average is up. It seems like every time he plays, he does something that sparks the Mets. He needs to be here. So with Sanger going down and Acuna needing to stay, that means that you either are going to send down Jose Azucar or Brett Beatty. Who do you send down, Ibby, and why?
I think when I look at it, I say I don't want, like, it's such a hard spot, mainly because I want to see Acuna at 2nd. I want to see McNeil filtered in at 2nd when they think it's proper, DH a little bit here, there too. I don't like, and I said it last week, and I already have a cut up and I showed you of a joke if it goes the other way, but I don't want to see Jeff McNeil in center field. Like that, just saying that makes me feel disgusting. It just feels so wrong.
I feel dirty.
It feels like
dirty saying that.
Putting him in a corner is a liability enough, in my opinion, at this point, and putting him in center field, like I said, when I have Juan Soto and right, just it doesn't equate for me. It doesn't work. So I don't want to see that. So when I break all this down, having the extra outfielder makes more sense to me in holding Azucar and sending Beatty down. But I feel as though that they still have their question marks, and you see the bobbles here and there of Vientos at third, that it wouldn't shock me if you see Beatty stay and work in whenever they want him to, because he doesn't have anything else to do in AAA. If he hits a bunch of homers, no, it doesn't matter. Like I understand him getting his reps matters, but I really think they're going to end up sending down Azucar as the other outfielder, and they're going to say, look, if we need another outfielder, we'll sprinkle in McNeil if need be, or they might bite the bullet and say we'll put Acuna out there because he's an athlete. But either way, I think it's going to be Azucar. I think they're going to keep Beatty up here. They're still going to give him reps here and there. I think because they want to see him at this level. They don't want to see him at AAA anymore. So I think Azucar and Sanger are the two that are going to be sent down.
I am going to interrupt this conversation for something that I'm sure people are going to want to hear. Carson says, sidetrack note, Ryan Clifford just slaughtered a baseball to the deepest part of the park, 110.3 miles an hour, 440 feet. That's the kind of update you like to see. So I'm going to go ahead and just throw, thank you, Carson. Thank you for saying that. So, Ibby, a lot of people in the comments, Maureen, Azucar gets sent down. We have Carlos Ramos, Azucar, Hebrew Hammer, Azucar, Cindy, Azucar. So the consensus.
I will say real quick, he did have good at bats last night. Better than I thought he would.
I thought he had
really good at bats. I thought he did.
He had very good at bats. Better than I would have expected.
Yes.
But I think you guys are all right. I'm in agreement here. And I think part of it is what I said on Twitter, which I will reiterate for people who didn't see it. Part of it is what Hebrew Hammer just brought up here. Hebrew says, Beatty is finally starting to show something. Will it last? I don't know, but he was a first-round draft pick, and it's time to shit or get off the pot. Sending him down will do nothing for him.
It's true.
I bring that comment up because I believe in this. I agree with the last portion of it. It's time to shit or get off the pot. Sending him down will do nothing for him. I will then say what I said on Twitter, which is, you guys know that I do not have faith in Brett Beatty as a baseball player. So I'm happy. I'm not rooting against him. I've given him credit where credit is due every step of the way for the better at bats and the big home run today, all that stuff. He deserves the credit. Good for the kid. It has not changed how I feel about him. I do not think that he is a Major League Baseball player. However, there is nothing for him to gain at AAA. And that means there is nothing for the Mets to gain with him being at AAA. And there is nothing for any other team to gain with Beatty being at AAA. Everyone knows when he goes to AAA, he becomes Barry Bonds. It doesn't matter anymore. He needs to stay up here in whatever role, because it doesn't help him and it doesn't help the Mets, whether he's on the Mets or the Mets throw him in a trade at some point at the deadline in the offseason. People need to see him do it at the major league level. The other part is, Ibby, the Mets still have Brandon Nimmo, Tyrone Taylor, Juan Soto, Jesse Winker, Starling Marte. That is 5 natural outfielders on the roster, plus Jeff McNeil, who can play in the outfield, and Acuna, who can play in the outfield. I think having 7 people capable of playing the outfield is probably enough right now. So I think having a guy who is another true outfielder in Azucar, who cannot play the infield, who doesn't give you any versatility in any way, shape, or form, who is a 28-year-old career minor leaguer, despite the fact that he had some good at-bats last night, I don't think that does anything for you. Yeah. I think having Jeff McNeil, who could play second base, who could play the corner outfields, I agree with you. I don't want to see him in center field, but maybe they throw him there for a game or whatever. I think Jeff McNeil's versatility is overrated at this point in his career. However, you can do that, and it's not the worst thing in the world. With Acuna, you have the ability to play second base at a high level. You have the ability to play shortstop at a high level if you needed him to. He can go out there and play center field despite the fact that he hasn't done it at the major league level. He's only done it in the minors. I also think he could play third base despite the fact that he has not done it at the major league level, only in the minors. You then have Brett Beatty, who I don't think is a natural second baseman. I don't think he looks great there consistently, despite the fact that he does some good stuff, maybe some bad stuff, whatever. I think he's enough of an athlete where clearly he can play second base and it's not going to kill you. He is, I think I got to eat crow on this. I think he's a better defensive third baseman right now than Mark Vientos. I said going into the year that I didn't think that was true. I think I was wrong. So now you have a guy who could play third, a guy who could play second. Then with Vientos, you could either DH him, you could play him at third. There's just so many more machinations that make sense for the lineup without Jose Azucar. I think it makes more sense for all parties involved that Beatty just stays on the roster. Now, he's not going to get the run that he would get if he goes down to AAA, where he plays every day and he's locked into a position in a batting lineup, but it doesn't matter. Because we've watched him do that for 3 years. Go down, play third base, hit third, hit bombs. He comes up, he's terrible. He has to do it here. And if he has to do it here in limited playing time or platoon playing time, so be it. That's it. So we could talk about who's going to play where in the second half. But at this point, I'll give you the final thought on this. At this point, there's no point in sending Beatty down. It's stupid, quite frankly.
And Diddy with the comment of the day so far. Nobody puts Beatty in a corner. Nobody puts Beatty in the corner, which I could agree with. John, on the other hand, will probably shove him in the corner and leave him there. But regardless, I'm with you. I think it makes the most sense. Like I said, those at-bats, notwithstanding, though they were better than I thought they would be, I think it makes the most sense to keep Beatty here and just play with the lineup as you will, play with defense as you will. And I think that having him here, to the point that someone in the chat just put up, late inning defensive replacements for third base. Also, at this moment, I feel more comfortable Beatty at third, especially late inning as opposed to Vientos at this point. Nothing against Mark, but just kind of the way it is right now. And it's good to have those things because we, have a rotation that pitches to contact, and having the better defenders out there late goes a long way. So all in all, makes the most sense. Send down Sanger, send down Azucar, and then let's roll.
That's how I would do it. That said, Abby, we're at an hour. Let's head into the break. When we come out of the break, again, we don't want to spend too much time on this daily lineup discourse, but I think the next genesis of this conversation that we're having right now about who goes down and who stays when McNeil and Alvarez come back is where people play, specifically Acuna and Jeff McNeil. So I think we should talk about that just a little bit, and we'll do that when we come out of the break. If you're watching for the first time live, and I know there are quite a few of you, it is just a quick 30-second reset and an ad spot we use for the audio version of the show. So do not go anywhere. It's John Saponaro. It's Matt Ibanez. It's Til Mets Do Us Part. We're live on YouTube. We're live on Twitter, and we will be right back. Yo, just like that, we are back with Til Mets Do Us Part, live on YouTube, live on Twitter, like we are each and every single week. John Saponaro, Matt Ibanez, plus all of you in the comments, and the comments have been great. The comments have been funny. The comments have been informative, like they are each and every single week. And the best way to become a full-fledged participant in this show is to subscribe to the channel to make sure that you can take part in the live chat, because the only way to be a part of the live chat is to be a subscriber to Til Mets Do Us Part right here on YouTube. But there are other ways to digest this show. Of course, sometimes you cannot be here for the 2 hours that we do. We appreciate everybody who is every week, but we understand life gets in the way. Jobs, kids, holidays, birthdays, all kinds of crazy stuff happens. Sometimes you're just tired. So when the episode is over, you can watch anything you missed on the same YouTube channel, which is appropriately called Til Mets Do Us Part. So if you subscribe, you turn notifications on, you'll never miss an episode or a chance to see the episode, whether it's live or after the fact. And if you can't do any of that, this drops as an audio podcast shortly after we're done with the live version here, usually in the same night on Spotify, Apple, Amazon Music, all the places that you get your podcast. And as always, the show is free and available however you would like to digest and enjoy this podcast, this live stream, this show. Ibby, before we get back into the Mets discourse, let's go ahead and hit them with a quick word from our friends over at Independent Safes.
Absolutely, John. IndependentSafes.com. Independent Safes are protecting homes and businesses with secure residential and commercial safes. Fireproof peace of mind in every corner. Visit IndependentSafes.com today for security that stands strong. And right now, I'm having a hard time putting anybody in an independent safe. If I take a quick thing, you know what? Maybe. No, actually, no, I'm not going to go that route because I'm not going to say names. I don't want to do that either because they don't deserve any more pub than they already get, which is already too much. You know what? This week, I have no one. Unless you have someone, John, off the top of your head, I don't have anyone that I would put into said save.
I'm going to say this, man. You can't put anybody on the Mets in an independent safe when they just wrapped up.
You know what? I'll do this.
Okay.
And you're right. Based off of everything that you can't put anyone on the Mets in the safe right now. I'm going to put in to said safe anyone out there, fan, non-fan, hate watching, whatever it is, any person that is saying things like the Mets haven't faced anybody. This is all smoke and mirrors. It's only April. The Mets going to come back down to earth. I'm putting all of those people into said independent safe. I'm locking it, throwing away the key, tossing it in the river, because this team, as we continue to say in the first half of the show, and we will continue to say throughout the season, this team is legit. This team is very good. This team is for real. So all those things being said, I'm taking all of you that say things along those lines, you're in the safe, and I'm tossing it away. So that, my friends, is my independent safe read for the day. IndependentSafes.com. Tell them Til Mets sent you. They'll take care of you. Free shipping, $99 and over. You spend $99 regardless. But make sure you tell them that we sent you there so they can be a little bit more thankful that they're getting some love over here at Til Mets Do Us Part.
Couple suggestions. Carson saying you could put Alec Boehm in the safe. I really hate that dude's bitch-made face. Okay. It's easy to put an opposing player in the safe. I think for any reason, it's a little bit more fun when we can try to figure out somebody that has a better connection to the Mets, but that's fine. Rosie saying we could put people who wanted to boo Soto in the safe. I think that's fine, but
that's
I also
a fair
think
one too.
It was also more of a last week thing. People have kind of come around. Douglas Barnes, John Heyman in the safe. John Heyman's always
that's a given.
He's a perpetual safe candidate for me, as is Brad's suggestion, WFAN.
That's why that was the one I said that I didn't want to,
you can put everybody not named Lori Rubinson in the safe, as far as I'm concerned, from WFAN. Yeah. And it's not just because Lori Rubinson is a friend of the show, and she's been on the show, and she's a friend of the QBC, and she's super nice. She always has been to myself and Ibby. It's also because she does good work at WFAN, and she's one of the few people who actually does. Shout out to the 2 super chats. Let's get to those real quick. We have a $5 super chat from Zero Cool saying, for the Wi-Fi, Danny Young KO'd Harper and Schwaba today. Just saying, he did. Danny Young came in as a lefty specialist in relief of Brazaban, who was in for the first out of that inning, and then struck out Harper, struck out Schwaba, and Schwaba, okay, Kyle Schwaba. Okay. Hopper, Schwaba. Okay. So yes, that is true. You know what, Ibby? Danny Young's been getting a lot of flack, but Danny Young did his thing today. And
did his job
on the news with Edwin Diaz. Danny Young seemed like he was going to be the first person off the team from the bullpen when Dediel Nunez was ready. But now I don't know what's going on with Diaz, if there's been an update. But he might get a chance to live another day. We had another super chat from Maureen, $10 on the super chat. Thank you. By the way, I don't know if I said this, $10 Excuse me. Thank you for the $5 from Zero Cool. Thank you for the $10. Where Maureen says, glad to be here live. I think earlier on Twitter said off from work today, so able to be here live. Mets have that 86 vibe going. It'd be hard
Always
to deny.
appreciate it,
It's
Maureen.
early. Yes, thank you so much. But it is hard to deny that vibe is, the vibes are good right now with the Mets.
It's impossible to not
86-esque.
feel. Yeah, especially like I said, it's the stadium. Like just looking back, I always said that. Like looking back at the highlights and of watching old games from '86, just seeing how on fire the stadium was, and the place was always packed, and people were so loud. It was just different back then. And now seeing this on the weekly, on the daily, just seeing this place, and it's why this team is 12-1 at home right now. They are on fire. They are feeding off of that energy, and it's awesome to see. And I would love to see it continue throughout the summer as well.
Ibby, I said that we were going to talk about the Acuna McNeil situation and who plays where, and for the most part. However, and we still will, but we have another super chat, $20. Thank you again for all the super chats so far. We got Zero Cool, Hebrew Hammer, Maureen, and now this one from Shay. It's tangential to this conversation because it has to do with Francisco Alvarez. But with respect to the super chat, let's bump this forward. We'll talk about Acuna and McNeil in a second. So Shay, shout out to Shay, thank you for the $20, says, uncomfortable conversation, but I'll ask your thoughts on this anyways. Knowing we have Torrens and Sanger, is Alvarez considered expendable or a potential trade chip to improve the team? By the way, I love Alvarez, says Shay, but I'm just asking what he says is an uncomfortable conversation. Matt, Ibby Ibanez, your thoughts?
First of all, shout out to Shay, and thank you for that so much, $20. It's much appreciated. And shout out to, of course, Shay and Sons for the Uncomfortable Conversations trademark, as always given respect and love. I don't think it's something where, again, I love everything that Luis Torrens has provided for this team. I love that he's becoming this rally cry almost to things similar that we've seen last year with all the heroics he's had to this point, hitting runners in scoring position, so on and so forth. But I don't think it's to the point where I'm going to sit here and say that I'm ready to, use Alvarez as a trade chip. I still want him to be a piece that can thrive in this lineup, which I think he can once he gets going. It's just been unfortunate, the injuries, especially to the hand, saps his power a little bit. I would love to see him just get right and be a part of this entire core moving forward. So while I understand why it's being asked, and it's a great question, because I think a lot of people might be thinking that, because whenever you think you have two catchers, well, it's like, well, if you can trade something and get better in another spot, then you should be doing stuff like that. And this team's doing fine with the likes of Torrens and Sanger. Like, why can't you do something like this and, get a starter or whatever it is that they think that they're trying to get? But I'm not ready to go there yet. So while I understand it, I'm not about it. I'll put it that way.
Yes. I'll bring the comment back up just because it was a thorough one and a thoughtful one, but I didn't want to block Ibby's face while we had it up there. We're trying something new with the up-down layout, and it has to do with cutting down the long-form show for easily digestible segments on TikTok and Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts and things like that. So that's why we change things up. But when we get big comments, it kind of covers my co-host's face, and I don't want to cover my co-host's face. But I'll bring it up for just a moment as now I make my point on this. Ibby, I see what Shay is saying, and I appreciate the thought-provoking nature of the comment, because he's not even really suggesting that we do it.
Right.
It is good food for thought, but I think you have to leave it right there. You cannot trade middle-of-the-order potential catchers who also play plus defense when they are in their early 20s. You just can't. That is as close to an untouchable that a position player can be, because they do not grow on trees. Luis Torrens has been fantastic. The Mets got Luis Torrens for a song, $100,000. In Major League Baseball terms, that is free. I don't know why the Yankees would have moved on from a player like this, but they did. David Stearns, working some Stearns magic, identifies a player, goes, gets a player. Luis Torrens is far and away the best backup catcher in baseball. What he has done in Alvarez's absence to start the season has been terrific. He was a guy, and they talked about this a lot on the broadcast the last couple of days, who came up as an offensive first catcher. His offense didn't really develop. His defense did. And then he became known as a defensive first catcher. So maybe he's just finally figuring it all out. That is very possible. However, what he has done to this point, and it's a small sample size, is kind of what Luis Torrens does. I talked about it when Alvarez first got hurt, and we talked about it on this show. Torrens is a guy who can get hot for stretches. He doesn't have a lot of power. He's going to be gap to gap. He's going to be right field. He's going to give you good at bats, and he's going to, hopefully he can do that while Alvarez is down. He has done exactly all of that. I am not ready to, with what I've seen from Torrens in this sample size, to move on from a 23-year-old potential 30-plus home run bat at catcher who also is a good defender. Now, I know he's had some ups and downs as a defender. This is Alvarez. I know he's had some ups and downs as a hitter. This is Alvarez. Ibby, if he could ever put it all together, Alvarez has the potential to be the best catcher in baseball. And with respect to Luis Torrens, he does not have that potential. Now, the other addition to this conversation is you could, after this year, have a situation where maybe you keep both of them, and maybe Torrens is the catcher most days, and maybe Alvarez DHs most days. Starling Marte is on the last year of his deal. Jesse Winker has a 1-year deal. I don't want to look too far into the future when we're in the midst of a team that is playing like the best team in baseball. But, you know, Alvarez doesn't necessarily have to be your catcher. You can have both guys, is all I'm going to say. And I think that's the best answer to this question. You just cannot move on from a player as young and as talented
a lot of
on
teams
the ball as Alvarez.
Yeah, a lot of teams now have two catchers. Like, it's
Correct.
becoming the norm. I know people aren't used to it, but I know we kind of, as baseball fans, we kind of get locked into these old thoughts of what baseball was and how it's supposed to be and how we think it still applies. But a lot of teams have two catchers. So it's like, if Torrens can become, you know, a more consistent player and you have him and Alvarez, that's a good thing. Like, you know, Will Smith at times doesn't play every day for the Dodgers, and if he's not behind the plate, I see other teams out there that have, you know, all world talent when it comes to prospects, like the White Sox, who have Edgar Quaro, who just got called up, and then they also have Kyle Teal, who's also a catcher. So both those guys are going to see playing time. Sam Basayo is going to be coming up soon for Baltimore, and they already have Adley Rutschman. It's like, you find a way. If they hit, you find a way. Like, they'll figure it out. So I'm not at any point. I know Shay's not saying that he's in a rush either, but like, no rush to even think about those types of questions, and I don't think the Mets are either.
I agree. Carlos Ramos saying Shay is bringing up interesting stuff today. I agree. It's an interesting food for thought question.
Yeah, definitely.
But I just don't think it's not one that I would do. Zero Cool saying Alvarez is going in the Cease Machado deal. If the Mets ever traded for the contract that Manny Machado has, I don't know. I'd lose my mind. That contract is horrible. He's going to be like 230 years old when that contract is over. The Padres just keep adding years to it. Then Carson saying, I would shop Alvarez if he was 28, not 23. It's a different position to develop, and there's still plenty of room for him to do so. A lot of people, Carlos saying, great point, Carson. Hebrew saying Carson is 100% on. Shay then saying, I paid $20 to block Ibby's face. That's a very funny comment. And I do think this is a sort of an interesting one here from Carlos, who agrees with Carson, but then says, but John and Carson, even though you guys are right about Alvarez being 23, wouldn't you trade him for Alcantara, who has 2 years of control left? I wouldn't. Ibby, would you?
I don't think I would. No. I'm all about stacking offensive players. I don't like I understand the need and want of another pitcher and things of that nature, but it's always dependent on what the offer is. That one, not so much. And to further along, to just add in Carson's point of 23 years old, the power output that could be there, like I can't. I'm sorry, I can't give that up. Even though I love Sandy, I can't do that. No.
Ricardo saying that he would, which is fine, but
That's fine.
I think there's a couple things that to take into account here. And I think one of them is from Carson, who says catcher's value is never lower than when a guy is banged up. The return would not be Sandy level for a guy who's underwent 2 hand surgeries in the span of 12 months. Talking about Alvarez. I think that's a factor. I also think if you're talking about the Marlins, I understand how good Alvarez is. But Ibby, are the Marlins ready to win at any time? Because Alvarez is a guy who's as young as he is. His clock, major league service time, that's already been started. The Marlins don't want Alvarez. Now, I'm not saying the Marlins wouldn't take Alvarez, but the Marlins are going to want guys who they can control the service time of, and that is not Francisco Alvarez. He's already been up for, what is it now? He's been here for 2 years, right? And then this will be the 3rd year. Well, the Marlins don't want to win, Jeff. You're right.
How's it going, Jeff?
The Marlins don't want to win today, tomorrow, or ever.
How's it going?
Frankly, the Marlins are they are doo-doo. They are basura. They are a terribly run organization. But Ibby, you know what I mean? Though the point is true that they don't want to start the clock. They want the Marlins, I think, would rather, even if they're lesser players, the Marlins want Jet Williams, not Acuna. The Marlins want, not
yes,
Acuna,
I
Alvarez.
agree with that.
The Marlins want other guys who are lower that they could say, okay, this guy, we could bring him up next year and we can control their service time.
Yes.
Alvarez is about to be in his 3rd year in the majors. That's a lot of time.
Yeah.
They're losing it. So, I want to bring up this one. It's another super chat. Thank you for the super chats continuously coming in here today. Black Banner. Sorry, It took us a minute to get to this because the Shea one came in first and it was very thought provoking. So it took us a moment, but says, how do I download the theme song? I want it as my ringtone. Shit goes hard. Ibby, we don't have a method to allow people to download the theme song. Maybe that's something we should work on.
I think it is. I mean, if people like it, yeah, absolutely.
If people are spending $5 just to ask, and we appreciate again the super chat.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Ask where they could get the theme song. That might be something we need to start to think about because I think it's a banger too. And shout out to Zeps, who is a big time Mets fan, who wrote and recorded that song for us. And shout out to Roos Beats, who is a Scandinavian producer, hip-hop producer that Zeps knows that produced the beat. So Ibby, I don't know if some of these folks don't go back as long as when we switched the theme song and we got this new one, but Ibby and I are both, kind of old school hip-hop guys. And we had just like a royalty-free kind of instrumental. And then we wanted to have something that was unique and for us. And we hit up Zeps and he did a great job. And Roos Beats did a great job. And we absolutely love it. And it seems like people love it too. So maybe we have to find a way. So to be continued, Black Banner, we'll try to figure out a way or what makes the most sense for people to be able to get their hands on the theme song, Ibby. I don't think it's a bad idea at all.
I don't think it is either. I mean, if you wanted something as simple as like, I know we posted it. It is on our TikTok. I know that. Or if you just wanted to like download a video and just rip it that way, I guess that could work too. But we'll try to figure out a way that we can make it a little bit more accessible to people if they truly want it as a ringtone. That's awesome. And I appreciate that you like it enough to want to hear it when someone's actually giving you a call.
Absolutely. Ibby, our conversation is being derailed in a good way. By another super chat, Darren Rivera. Shout out Darren Rivera, $4.99.
Love you, Darren.
Super chat.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you. Do you think the future center fielder is coming from within the organization or outside the organization? And if within, who do you think? Jet, Gilbert, or someone else in the minors? Very good question.
I don't think I think Gilbert's going to get a shot. I still don't think Gilbert's a center fielder. I think he's more of a corner, which makes his whole point in this on this team a little bit questionable unless he moves to, let's say, left because they don't think Nimmo has the legs anymore, if that becomes the point. But I think he'll get a shot in center. I don't like Jet in center. I think Jet is better suited on the dirt. So I don't have it off the top of I don't have it in front of me right now, I should say. I don't know if Carson Benj right now is projected more so as a center fielder or a corner. Probably right now he's probably projected as a center, but that might end up as he fills out more moving towards a corner, which then makes that questionable. So there's a lot of said questions here. So at the moment, I will say no. The future center fielder is not on this team at the moment.
I tend to agree. I think that the future center fielder for the Mets is not in the organization right now. I think Acuna is too, look, okay, Ibby, couple things. There are 3 people in this conversation that I think could all potentially play center field for the Mets for an extended period of time this season. And that is Drew Gilbert, Luisangel Acuna, and Jet Williams. I think any one of those players could find themselves as the Mets' regular, quote unquote, regular center fielder this year. But future long-term plans center fielder, I don't think it's any one of them. I don't want to make this a thing. I know it's always the joke, but I think it's true. I think Jet Williams and Luisangel Acuna are just too short to play center field in the major leagues for the long haul. I think Drew Gilbert, I know Zero Cool disagrees. He says that he is the center fielder. He is a true center fielder. I'm with you, Ibby. I don't know that he is one. I think he is. I think a lot of things have to break right for Drew Gilbert to be an everyday player. I think that's the problem almost more than him being a center fielder. Everything has to be perfect for Drew Gilbert to be a major league regular. And I think that his future long-term is not in center field. Dare I say it, Ibby? I think there is a chance to try to combine these conversations that the future of Jet Williams and Drew Gilbert is not even with the Mets.
I think it's fair to say that. I think it's fair.
I think Drew Gilbert and Jet Williams.
This deadline is going to tell a lot. Yeah,
yes.
It's going to tell a lot, this deadline. 100%. And I don't know if they're going to be here. I don't know.
I don't know. I truly don't. So I don't think that person currently is in the organization. You're right about Benj. I don't know if Benj is going to become a right fielder. Right now he's playing center field. And I would say today, with not all the information at my disposal, right? I can't tell the future. April 23rd, 4:08 p.m. here on the West Coast, I think the person who has the best chance of being the everyday center fielder in the organization is probably Carson Benj, just based on the fact that he's further away. And I think that's like the everyday future center fielder. I think Jet Williams and Drew Gilbert are huge candidates to get traded. And I just think that's how it's going to play out. I think Luisangel Acuna is playing himself into being the Mets' second baseman of the future. And before we talk about that, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say real quick. I wanted to bring up Ricardo's comment saying how Shane Victorino was an excellent center fielder. He wasn't tall at all, but Victorino was also an outfielder. Like we're talking about
by trade.
By trade, he was an outfielder. So it's like, it's tough when you're telling a guy that has been predominantly on the dirt, on the infield. It's like, I know that they've tried him out there, but sometimes it can work. Sometimes guys can transfer over. Like we talked about, Jackson Merrill was a shortstop that he goes to, he becomes one of the better outfielders in the game. A little bit different type of athlete, bigger. Like I said, it's hard. It's hard to shake what I brought up a couple weeks ago, how the average center fielder or the average outfielder in Major League Baseball is close to at least 6 feet tall. And you only have certain guys that are below 6 feet that have had strong careers. Like not everyone's Mookie Betts. Not everyone's right. Christian Yelich. Like it's not, because I think Yelich, though he looks like a string bean, I think is Yelich that big? I thought he was like 5'11", 5'10", 5'11", whatever it may be. But I know that it's tough to shake something like that. And we saw, Williams out there at times, gets hurt. Like, I don't know if it's the right thing for him. So I'm going to say again, I don't think that the center fielder is on this team.
Christian Yelich is listed as 6'3", so you're very wrong.
I'm thinking of somebody else. I'm off. I'm thinking of somebody else then. But
oh, Ibby.
Yeah.
Hold on. Carson,
Whoa!
$50 super chat from our friend
Hey
Carson at Mets Weekly. Shout out to Mets Weekly. Carson, Frank, Andrew do a great job. Says, have to go prep a show, which is Mets Weekly. Carson's going to go do that. But heard big messages cover the Ibster's face. So I thought I'd try it for the economy. So I got to leave this up, Ibby, because this is a $50 super chat. I got to keep you covered for a minute here. Hey, guys, how's it going? You think the New York Giants and the San Francisco Giants ever have dinner together? I really think they do. I'll hang up and listen. Of course, that was a great prank call that was given into the one and only Mike Francesa. But shout out to Carson for the $50 super chat. Super chats have been flying in today, Ibby. We appreciate it. Whether it's for the Wi-Fi or it's simply to cover your face. I am going to leave this in the spirit of the $50 and in the spirit of Mike Francesa being a radio first show, even though it was simulcast. I am going to leave this up so that people can't see you but can only hear you as you respond to whether or not you think the New York Giants and the San Francisco Giants ever have dinner together. Your thoughts, Ibby?
Just another clown. Just get him out of here. Get him out of here. Just give him a little bit of a hand wave. Can't even answer that. Holy wow! There's a lot of things coming in right now. I am shocked at the amount of stuff that is coming in at the moment. So whether the Giants of New York and the Giants of San Francisco have dinner, I would like to think that they do, probably around the same time that the Rangers of Texas and the Rangers of New York probably have the same dinner as well. Mm-hmm. So either way, I appreciate it, Carson. And it's funny enough that at least one person, had joked because they had an issue with me at one point on the old Twitter machine, saying how that they thought I had a face for radio. So clearly Carson believes the same thing as he covers my face so people can only hear my voice. So I appreciate it, Carson. I really do.
Jeff Cohen earlier complimented your looks. I believe it was Jeff Cohen who said that he just said you're a handsome fellow or something like that. So I don't know what it was in response to, but there you go. I'm going to do this really quick. I'm going to switch us. Just for a second. So I can be hidden by Carson's comment. Okay. The New York Giants. Come on. What is this? Okay. Get out of here with this. You wait on hold all day. Okay. It's
go help an old lady across the street. What do we do?
It's a long time you sit on hold. Okay. And this is what you do. Okay. If you don't have a life, get a life. Okay. Thank you to Carson for the $50 super chat. But Ibby.
Oh my God.
Not to be outdone.
This is nuts.
Not to be the biggest singular super chat we have had since we started. And also, I think gave in a $20 super chat earlier.
Yes,
so this is the biggest single super chatter in the history of Til Mets Do Us Part, both on an individual super chat and totally for the show. Hebrew Hammer, indeed.
Dropping the hammer.
The hammer. Yes. This is like when Thor used Mjolnir and Stormbreaker at the same damn time in Avengers Endgame. This is Hebrew Hammer, simply to just say, wow, Carson, nice. But no one puts Hebrew in the corner, dropping $100 on the super chat to simply outdo Carson. And yes, Ibby, that crown will firmly sit right there for Hebrew Hammer. Thank you so much for the $100 super chat. Wow.
Insane. Like, thank you so much, man. That is nuts. Thank you so much.
I love this. You know what? Carlos saying, Ibby, now you have to upgrade to fiber. Odd Villain saying, kids, we're going to Disney. And also before that, Odd Villain just said, rich motherfuckers, man.
Whoa! First of all, odd. I've been seeing you a lot lately at Citi. And I heard that you pulled out the black card too one time when you were out there with buying drinks with Keith. So if anyone's rolling it right now, my brother, I think it's you, because you've been going to a lot of games. I think you're the one who's got the cash over there. Just saying.
Oh man. Oh, I don't know, Abby. You told me before we went live you were busy all day painting your back deck. So
whoa. Take it. It's just it's nothing to brag about. I mean, come on. What are we doing here? I mean, come on.
I mean, I'm just saying. Oh man, no, this is honestly, thank you. Obviously, shout out to Hebrew Hammer, shout out to Carson,
shout out to everybody.
Everybody.
Awesome.
I mean, the comments have been live, but the super chats are much greatly appreciated. Odd Villain saying Ibby has a private jet.
Please. I drive an Elantra. I mean, come on. What are we doing here? I mean, it's nothing special. I mean, come on.
Ibby, you said you had to go a little bit after 7. Do you have another moment? Okay. Shout out to everybody. Great chats. Everything has been fantastic. We will have to get out of here shortly.
Yeah.
But I do want to get into this conversation about Acuna and McNeil. Carlos Ramos brought up a comment earlier, and I accidentally unstarted it, and now I don't think I can find it if I try to go back. But the point was, Lindor has played his best with somebody not named McNeil playing second base, basically saying that, McNeil's not a great double play partner. I think there's some truth to that, in that I think McNeil's fine, but I think the Mets have better options now. And also, I don't think Lindor is going to play worse with somebody else next to him. He's too good. You know what I mean? He's not going to play worse with McNeil next to him. But what would you do? Would you play McNeil at second base, or would you play Acuna at second base? What is your thoughts on how the Mets should handle this with McNeil coming back?
I don't think it should be something that is set in stone. Honestly, I don't think it should be something where McNeil is back on Friday and automatically he gets second base. Like, if that happens, I get it to an extent, but I don't want it to be that. Because I want it to be like it. If Acuna was struggling, and even to a lesser extent, if Beatty wasn't playing adequately like he has been, if it was to the point where it's he can just insert himself back in, which 2 weeks ago when we were talking about this, it made all the sense in the world because nothing was really happening, but nobody wanted to take the ball and run with it. But now the running is starting to happen. The playing time has been there. It's been more consistent. They're starting to show out a little bit more, showing their worth. So it's I don't want it to just be okay, Jeff McNeil's back. You're relegated to the bench. Acuna is Beatty's a little bit different. Acuna is different in the sense of they might say, well, we need his athleticism in center. We want to try this out, and we don't want Tyrone Taylor to be every day. So we're going to go that route instead. I get that to an extent, but if I'm being honest, I want to see it right now where Jeff works his way back in. Maybe he works in his DH at time to time, going off of matchups and doing things of that nature. But I really think that for the time being, I think Acuna has earned second base, and you work in Jeff as it makes sense. Are they going to do that? Probably not, but that's the way I would go about it.
I would do that as well. I would let Acuna be the most of the time second baseman, and then you could play matchups. If you want to get McNeil in there against certain pitchers, that's fine. Even if it's 2 days in a row, whatever the case may be, you can bring in Acuna for defense, similarly to the way you did with Beatty. I don't care if it's going to offend Jeff McNeil's sensibilities because he's, been a veteran or whatever. And McNeil is more of a true second baseman than Beatty is, so I don't think you're losing as much, but you're definitely not gaining as much as you would by having Acuna out there. So you could do some things. You could also, late in the game, you could take Nimmo off of his feet for a couple of innings, an inning or two. You can put McNeil out in left field. You could put Acuna at second base. You can do some stuff there. But I'm with you in the sense that I think you should play the young kid in the position that he is best at. I think you should put the kid who could be the future, one of the future pieces of your team, at the position where he's going to thrive. And I think that is the case with regards to Acuna. And this is not dumping on Jeff McNeil, but even if Jeff McNeil plays out the rest of his contract with the Mets, I'm sure Zero Cool wants him to, it's just another year, Ibby. It's another year after this. So it's not the long haul. And I think, look, this stuff can be fluid. This stuff can change. If Acuna gets the lion's share of the time at second base and then doesn't hit, well, then you can turn back to McNeil. You know what McNeil is. Now, we can debate how much McNeil is still that thing that people think he is, but the bottom line is he is not the future of this team. And Acuna, like I said the other day, could be the future of this team. I think I said last week, right? Like, you could tell me a situation where in 3 years, Luis Angel Acuna is, getting 400 to 500 at bats, playing all over as a super utility player for the Mets, and I would believe you. Or you could tell me in 3 years that he's an all-star second baseman, and I would believe you. I think both things are equally possible right now, but I think because of the probability or the likelihood of either one of those things being the thing that happens, you have to give the young player here a boost. Plus, like you said, like Zero Cool said in the chat, you can play McNeil in left field. You can play McNeil at second. You can play McNeil. I don't want to see it happen, but maybe you throw him in center field for a game. You can throw him at DH. You can do some things, and it's not going to affect him. I would rather the kid be set in a spot and that kid be comfortable. And that's what I would do, honestly.
At this point, I think the only reason why John wants to see McNeil in center is just for the video that I have already queued up, ready to
That's
drop.
true. Yeah.
for the entire thing, which is going to be hysterical if it does happen. But yeah, there are different ways that you can move things around. I don't think removing Acuna right off the rip because McNeil is back is the right move to do. I hope they don't do it. Will I be shocked if they do it? No, but I hope that they just say, look, this kid's been playing awesome. He's earned second base. We'll work in Jeff where we see fit based off the matchups.
Yeah, and I like this one from Hebrew. This kind of goes back to what I was saying before with the Azúcar Beatty conversation. We should be happy that we're in this situation. We have this enormous flexibility. Most teams would dream to, basically be in this spot. So I think that's a good point. I think that's when you talk about the flexibility of where this roster is right now, super, super important. Darren Rivera with a 1999 party like it's 99 super chat saying, I would like to drop the Hebrew Hammer, but Diamond Dynasty on MLB The Show is killing me. But you guys are great. Thank you
you so much, Darren.
Nearly $20 super chat.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate that very, very much. And to drop that, to just say some kind words and to make a joke about how Diamond Dynasty does cost a lot of money if you're playing MLB The Show. That is true. Ibby, before we get out of here, I want to pull this one up from GSD. It's been hanging for a while. Went to the game today. Nice crowd. Used to go to day games in April with, 3,500 people in the building. There was like 30,000 people in the building. I know that's something we talked about at the top of the show, but it does bear repeating that the crowds have been great. Shout out to Mets fans everywhere that have been traveling, but especially the Mets fans at home. I'm jealous that I haven't been able to be there, honestly.
I'm working on getting back to the stadium within the next month or so. So I'm hopeful to get out there relatively quick. I do want to give, before we get out of here, I want to give some love to Tylor Megill, from Tylor to CY-lor, because it's in the ticker. I got to make sure I say something. Tylor Megill this season, 3-2, 24 innings pitched, a 1.09 ERA, 30 strikeouts, zero home runs allowed. Is this the breakout of Big Drip? Is this the breakout of Tylor Megill? I hope it is, man. We talked about it a lot in the offseason about how, he has all the stuff in the world. He's just got to be consistent with it and actually deliver. And he has to this point. He's belonged to this point. He's going out there and he's handling himself. He's working himself out of situations. 10 strikeouts last night. Or 2 nights ago. So it's been awesome to see. I know somebody was trying to call me out on TikTok with one of our things, saying how the disrespect better be as the apology better be as loud as the disrespect, because I called that Tylor in the offseason, but I didn't really say anything that was improper. I said if he can just go about doing his business, he can actually provide big for this team. Which again, I didn't say anything that was wrong. And he's doing it. So I'm pumped up that he is doing what is required to be a player for this team, and a big one at that, because like I said, pitching to a near sub 1 ERA is awesome. So again, shout out to all of you. That's my ending piece for today. Shout out to all of you. So much love to this entire chat for the amount of super chats that you sent in this week.
For real.
It's just incredible. Thank you so much. Thank you to Hebrew for lighting the fire on people, if you will, and then everyone just going back and forth and asking great questions as well. Thank you so much. If you haven't hit the thumbs up, make sure you hit the thumbs up. It really helps reach more and more Mets fans. So shout out to the 203 across YouTube and X right now. But again, all the love and let's go Mets.
You know, it's funny. I'll just add this to the Tylor Megill conversation. It's funny that anybody would hate on you or me for Tylor Megill when two things are true. One, Tylor Megill at certain points in his Mets career has deserved a little bit of hate, at the very least criticism, if you don't want to say full-fledged hate. But also, you and I have been pretty fair to Tylor Megill as far as people are concerned. I have said on this show, and I will say it again, there were times when Tylor Megill first came up, when Jake was still on this team, that he was operating like a poor man's Jacob deGrom. He was throwing up in the zone with a lively four-seam fastball. It seemed like he was taking cues from deGrom. I never said he was going to be the next deGrom, but this guy clearly has the stuff. He clearly has the stuff. And even people who are wildly critical of him and have been in this chat, it'd be like Carlos Ramos. I don't want to call him out. He's like, oh, he's got great stuff, but I think he's a relief pitcher. Like, so I think it's funny that anybody would criticize anybody from this show, whether you or I, or even people in the comments, because I think we've been a pretty fair show on Tylor Megill, who again has deserved criticism at times. And I think we've just been fair. We've never dumped on the guy. But yes, it is nice to see, like AJ points out, that he has a 109 ERA. We're living in a bizarro world. The guy has always had the talent. You're right, no home runs allowed. Has he turned the corner? I hope so. And AJ said this earlier, and I want to bring it back up. Remember when we all wanted Jeremy Hefner fired? Not saying he's responsible for the success. The pitching lab is huge. Whatever they're doing with the pitching, change none of it. I think that Jeremy Hefner does deserve credit. I said at points, who does he make better? He's made a lot of guys better. I know a lot of it is the work that they do in the offseason with the pitching lab and the continued work that they do with the development and the behind the scenes stuff and the sports science. All of that is true, but the message does get relayed due in large part to the pitching coach, and Hefner does deserve credit for sure. Carlos Ramos saying, I'm eating crow, John. I mean, Ibby, that's what this show is about. We're going to give our opinions. Sometimes we're right. Sometimes we're wrong.
Yeah.
I just said that I was wrong about Jeremy Hefner. Carlos Ramos being big enough to say he was wrong about Tylor Megill, perhaps. So, look, and yeah, obviously look what it's done for Griffin Canning. He's went from the worst pitcher in baseball statistically last year, and he's been absolutely tremendous. Final thing I'll say, Odd Villain asking when I'm going to be in New York. I don't know yet. I don't have anything circled. I'm dealing with a lot right now. I'm moving, got a lot of stuff going on, but I am going to try to get back to New York at some point this summer. So you guys will be the first to know. That's all I got to say. Ibby, is there anything that you left out? I know you said your final piece, but anything you want to get to before we go?
I got nothing else, and I know that my Wi-Fi started out even more, so I'm ready and set to go. And I'm just very thankful. I'm just thankful to everyone this week for just doing what you did with the super chats and everything, and just interacting with us on the daily, or the weekly, I should say, just being awesome about it. And yeah, thank you so much. That's all I got.
Yes, it is super, super appreciated. Thank you to everybody who was in the chat. Thank you to everybody who was watching silently. You guys don't need to be in the chat if you don't want to, but it is a very friendly, welcoming place, I promise. And thank you
yes,
to everybody who gave us the super chats throughout the day.
Shout out real quick again, Armand. He sent me a gift last week, which was so freaking cool. He did send me, I don't know if you can see it because of my Wi-Fi, but he did send me a Juan Soto baseball card, and he also sent me the SI cover, if you could see it or not, because the Wi-Fi knows rough. But the SI cover, which I will be framing, and eventually you will see some cool stuff behind me. I'm working on it, but thank you so much, Armand. That was awesome of you to do that. You didn't have to, and I really appreciate that.
And I know I said this at a different point in the show, but the Til Mets Morning Minute is not dead. I know a lot of people were really into that on Instagram Reels, on TikTok, on YouTube Shorts, even on Spotify. I was doing it kind of across the board. That is something I will get back into. It's just been really hectic. Again, trying to get all that stuff sorted, moving again in 2 weeks. To a better apartment, honestly, a nicer apartment. So that's cool too. This has been a really comfortable spot, but so the setup will look a little different, I'm sure, once it's all sorted out. But shout out to each and every single one of you guys. I do like the people, Ibby, and we'll go after this, I promise. Carlos saying I was also wrong about Pete, by the way. Zero Cool saying I was wrong about Lindor back in 2021. It's nice to see people owning up to it. And I think that's the spirit, not just them, like I said, ourselves included.
Yeah.
And I think it's that's when you can have the debates, you can have the conversations, you can have the discourse. Hell, even sometimes you have arguments. I've had arguments with Carlos Ramos. I've had arguments with Douglas Barnes, but you talk about this stuff. We've had beefs on this show, but then it's like, hey, you know what? I was wrong, or you were right, whatever. And then it's important to be able to admit that. And it always keeps the dialogue moving in a positive direction, even if it ends at a place where it's like, you know what, we're still disagreeing. You can come out and say what you got to say and be able to be big enough to admit that you were wrong. Anyway, this is Til Mets Do Us Part. We are live on YouTube. We are live on Twitter, like we are each and every single week. I'm John. That's Ibby. We will see you all next week. Peace.